YouTubes. I wasn't even really planning to stream like that, but screw it. I don't care. Um, yeah, so I'm working on some more of this. I was wondering. Um, I noticed that things move kind of smooth when I move around. I wonder if I could get away with less. All right, just trying to see if me changing it up changes anything. We'll see. I'll move some stuff around and see how smooth it actually moves for you guys. It's using less of my CPU, which is good, and it still looks like it's smooth enough for you to see what I'm doing. I am kind of excited about that because now I don't have to like do this crazy HD 60 frame. Like, who needs 60 frames for what I'm doing? I don't think anyone needs that. Either way, what am I trying to do? So I was working on this, and I'm gonna just keep working on it for now. I just don't feel like working on it alone, so I'm here working on it with you guys. Um, I kind of don't want to give away all my stories because at some point later today I have to do my official Facebook Live sort of streaming. Try to, you know, seem like I'm an interesting human being or something. Which I am. I think, yeah. So, today, while I was at work, I was thinking about this project a little bit. And I was like, oh man, um, it's interesting to be streaming now and just talking to no one but myself. Like this is therapy or something. I think it's a little weird, but um, welcome. Like it's a welcome feeling of like I feel like I've joined the 21st century because I'm able to stream now. Something I've wanted to do for a while. I'm always watching other people sort of stream video stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I got things to say. Well, maybe not say, but I got things I'm doing that's worth showing to one person who's randomly clicked on my video on YouTube. Totally worth it. Um, and so, uh, my goofball self, and I'm kind of excited by all this newfound freedom and power. Power. This finger is ridiculously long for no reason. Nah. There we go. So, yeah, just trying to make progress on this, trying to get things done. I am the guy who has multiple jobs. Yeah. Um, trying to just. I'm drawing too much detail in these hands to make them look like old man hands, but at least I'll know that they're the right shape. And I did actually this morning. I did some drawing on this um, early in the morning before everything went to hell, and I had to get stuff fixed in the house. Um, in terms of like water issues, etc. So yeah, just I got some cleaning up in for Toro's face. It looked a little different. I'm sure if you look back on my other streams, you'll notice that it looks a little different from what it was before. Toro has a far more intense look on his face now. Um, He's like in eagle eye mode, like he's in full battle mode. You know, eyes furrowed down. He's sort of got the mid motion look to him. Like, oh, that actually reminds me. I probably should warm up, but feels like I'm okay. Still feels a little choppy. Maybe. Maybe I could stand to warm up. I think really what I need to do is diversify. If I keep working on Ella stuff too much, I won't be able to draw anything else. This happened when I was working on Jack B. I would work and work and work and work and work and work on this thing because, it's top of mind. I want to get it done. You work on it until it's done. But what happened? Oh, that just doesn't. Um, but what happened was I got burnt out a little bit, and then I had to like take a step back, and it was one of those like I was forced to take a step back. um, it wasn't necessarily like of my own volition. It was like I wasn't sleeping too well, and my body just started giving up. It was just like, all right, look, you're tired. You're gonna sleep through that 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock hour in the morning, and you're gonna you will obey me. That's what my body said. You will obey me. You think your mind will, get you through, but nope. When you ain't got no energy, your body lets you know. And there's all types of like stuff like that um, I do not want to occur while I'm working on this stuff. And I'm totally in a space of having bad bodily function because that's what I've been having pretty much for the last couple months or whatever. But it's definitely because I've taken on a lot of work, and I'm just trying to like finish stuff out so that way I get some peace of mind. And my body can kind of revert back to normal. And it seems like, I mean, this last month has been much better in terms of that, finding some normalcy. But yeah, just try. Oh, really? Um, just trying to get this thing done and out the way. I hate that when I'm drawing, like it's hard to get lines not to cross over each other. I guess it's fine. Maybe I'm expecting too much. By the second layer, I want to be awesome, and sometimes this doesn't work that way. I think I'm relatively okay, considering. It's actually that. You know what? Oh man, I had it and then I erased it like a dummy. That's better. Yeah, that'll work. I'm trying to get it to be like thin shirt folds and flaps. Keep hitting X. It's not good. Folds. Yeah, folds. Yay. Not the most accurate. I'm not the most accurate with folds, but I try to have like a certain pattern that I follow when I do folds. It's a so last time I was talking about Jim Lee sort of having like a way that he draws, you know, fist and hands and stuff. And I think it's really challenging to try to use those same principles for kids' hands. Like, it is like the hardest thing because kids' hands are pudgy. So you want to show that they're like they're doing something. They're attempting to swing. In this case, he's swinging his the staff, but I don't want him to seem too muscular or too detailed or all this stuff. So it's always like a weird sort of challenge. I guess in this case, you know that hand is really doing all the work. You know, the other hand is sort of just pulling away and guiding. But the force is in this one. Um, but yeah, I guess yeah, it's pretty cool to be drawing and Toro's luxurious sort of. Look at that mane. Look at that. Whew, that flow. I don't know why my cursor doesn't show. I really wish my cursor would show. Because I do a lot of like pointing with my cursor that I know is useless for you all. Because my cursor doesn't show on the screen. So I'll be talking about, oh yeah, this over here that I'm circling but you can't see because I'm not actually drawing. I'm just gesturing that it's there. Probably should correct that. Uh, yeah, I probably should. But I'm new to all this stream stuff, so you're gonna have to forgive me. Damn it. So the thing about Toro is his sides of his head, they're shaved, and sometimes it grows back a little bit, so you see little dots. You know, from the blue below, you would think that the hair is a little longer. Um, so I'm trying to make sure that these dots are actually really tiny, so they look like stubble and not like they should be long hairs. Because once they get past a certain length, you kind of are like, I don't know, me, I want to draw the shape of the hair because I love hair. I love drawing hair. I love drawing ethnic hair in particular. Um, it's fun. It's nice to see. Like in my comic book, my characters have like some of the most amazing freaking hair, um, and it's because I think in the comic book world, like especially in the comic book world, there's like this like okay, there are three hairstyles for black people, and it's like it's either an afro, it's a low like Caesar, and you know a Caesar with a fade with lines, whatever, but it's a Caesar, and then there's like nowadays there's like the high top because everyone wears like the high fade now, so there's like this high fade, high top sort of haircut that you start to see crop up. And then, you know, sometimes in video games you'll see like, oh, cornrows or something. But there's so much more than that. Like, just Google Afropunk. Look at those photos for a minute. Oh my god. There's some different looking people there and I love it. Like it's my favorite thing. Like I fell in love with the Afropunk Festival in Brooklyn, like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I went to my first one, and I was like, "Yo, this is like these are my people. I need to be here every year," um, and you know they're characters walking around like it's a perfect character study spot. You go, like I would go there with my sketchbooks and I just sit there and draw because there's just so much inspiration there. Um, so many interesting characters, outfits. Like like if you wanted to do like an all black anime, you would have to look at Afropunk as a resource for character designs because there's some crazy hair, outfits, like people who wear funny shades, like funny shades, funny jewelry. I don't even want to say funny. I would say just like really interesting jewelry patterns, Definitely the African influence is very strong. Um, but not just that, like color palettes, shapes, like the way things drape on people. Where sleeves end or leg pants or pants of legs end and start are just so different and so interesting. And I don't know, I think it's really dope, and I would love to see more of that in our everyday. Um, you know, I would love kids to see that and be like, oh man, yeah, it's cool to rock like a baseball cap, a t-shirt, and some jeans, but you don't have to do that. You could wear overall shorts with cut off holes in the side, and a nose ring, a ear bar, um, and have a tattoo underneath your chin that says, uh, you know, what's hidden inside or something. Just you could have that be. You don't have to be the straight up norm, and you don't have to be also this guy who is striving or seeking for to be different. You should be striving to be yourself and nothing more. And so, I don't know, just seeing characters who break your social norms is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And when I think about sort of stuff that kids pick up, we learn a lot of our social cues from the things we consume as children. Like superhero books give us the morals, right? Like, hey, don't hurt people, always protect people, blah 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 blah. And that's why I still love that type of stuff, because it's like, in a world that is increasingly forgetting these things, um, it's nice to sort of see that tradition carry on, and remain strong. And hopefully it will lead to a greater change in our society down the road, when people are ready for that change. Um, but yeah, just thinking about um, all that. Like, I love to see when things break the social norm to create the new norm. Like, that should be the new norm. And then the next generation can rebel and do their own thing. Maybe baseball caps and jerseys come back once they've been out of style, so to speak, for a very long time. You know, I think immediately of the sort of the patterned shirts and pants that you see now. Like, I remember being a little kid and seeing in the '80s these like polka dot print shirts and stuff. Um, and like they're back hardcore. I kind of like it too, because with today's sort of tech, you can do way more intricate shit that you couldn't do back in the early '80s. So you get some like really interesting stuff coming out. And going back to the top of that, being a character designer, like, yeah, all that stuff is super interesting to me. Um, you know, Today I like with not necessarily with the thing I'm currently working on, but when I'm designing my own stuff, for just for me, I'm always trying to figure out like, well, what's the latest fashion of right now, and can I feasibly predict what the future could hold? Like, what are the rules for making that stuff work? Because fashion is, it's funny, and I don't mean like runway fashion. I mean everyday fashion. Like what people wear every day. What, like when I say soccer mom, what do you envision? And I think that would change based on how old you are. um, but yeah, just this concept of like, what do people wear every day? And it's like, okay, if I'm working on something set in the future, but not way in the future, just like 15 years, how drastically do clothes change within the 15-year space? I think of clothing in my own lifetime coming full circle once in a 15-year space. So, uh, I don't know. Like, I think about that stuff when I'm working on, you know, like newer properties. I try not to fit with the current time. I try to fit with just like if I could figure out just slightly ahead, or like if I could imagine just slightly ahead, I'd do that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So what? But I just like the practice of thinking in that regard because I have a lot of respect for people who are paving the future, so to speak, not just embracing the now. You know, I think it's cool what fashion people do. Although all that ego, ugh, no one likes that. But um, outside of that, it's a pretty nifty space to be in, and I don't know, just when I'm working on stuff, I think about that stuff. I think about how fashion would work in the future. I think about um, timelessness too, because I think fashion folks care about timelessness. Having creating something that will endure the test of time. You know, and I think anyone who makes anything tries to do that and will try their damnedest to take advantage of that. Like you do like a spin on it. And so that what I've described just now is me trying to figure out a spin for what I do. But yep. Anywho, I'm getting caught up in a detail that I shouldn't be getting caught up on. Oh, look at Toro. Look at him. He's getting his fight on. That's nice. I always don't know what to do in this situation because it's like yeah, I guess it's like that, right? Yeah. Ah, Knuckles. Uh, anyway, it's coming along though. Once the line work is sort of there, I get to color. It's gonna be exciting times. Um, uh, a lot of this stuff is just spending the time to do it. I would rather spend my time doing this, to be honest, but I do have to pay bills, so I will work on this as best I can, but know that that next thing I gotta do it. Um, uh, cool guy shades. These guys, they're funny. The boogables. The boogables are, man. When I was, it's kind of interesting seeing like a year later where they kind of evolved to a little bit because when I first drew it, so I first got like the first sort of description of what they are, and Cerise is they're trapped inside of children. I was like, that's scary. uh, but I kind of didn't say it out loud. I just kind of let her rock with it, and she was like, yeah, like do some concepts around, a boogable like masquerading around as a child, um, at school, and so I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I started drawing stuff where like it was like literal. It's like they they are inside a child, like driving the child like it's a mechanical thing. And they use magic to make it look like, to the human eye, that this was a regular normal child. But like if the magic wore away, you'd see it just be like this mechanical automaton, that looks like it looks like a so it looked like Krang, like like a kiddie version of Krang, which is kind of weird. Because if you are familiar with the Ninja Turtles from the '90s cartoon, then you know that it kind of already looked like it was like a plushy, sort of chubby character. The character didn't look menacing really at all, and that's the one that I kind of grew up on. And so I showed this to Cerise, and she was like, "I am terrified. My son is terrified," and I was like, "Why? I mean, this is awesome." But then I realized how creepy it is. It's just like, oh, it's kind of creepy. Like, it's like a little troll sitting inside of a machine. Inside, like, imagine like a Chucky doll with the stomach scooped out, and inside is like this little gremlin. It's like sitting in there with like his two lever controllers, trying to ride it around like it's a Gundam or something. It was kind of, I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. It is a little creepy. Uh, I will give you that. But it's I feel like kids can tolerate some of this stuff depending on what it is. I mean, kids watch a lot of crazy stuff these days anyway. Um, I sounded real old right there, and that's because screw it, I'm old. I don't care. um, but yeah, the kids watch a lot of crazy stuff nowadays, and so I didn't see that concept as being like so outlandish or out of control. But then she was like, "Well, yeah, that's them other kids. I don't let my kids watch that stuff, so we not putting that in the book." I was like, "Okay, okay, I'm not gonna fight it. Just I was just like, okay, I understand, I understand." Uh, but that's what's really cool about working with Cerise. Like we can have that dialogue back and forth, and it's like not a thing at all. She's probably one of my most favorite clients to have ever worked for. She's got a heart of gold, and like I really view her as like like she's my client, but she's a mentor too. Um, she sort of helps me understand. You know, I don't want to get all religious, but it's like there's a level of grace to the things she's doing and why she's doing them, and I appreciate that, the presence of that grace in her, because she's always so giving and always so willing to sort of let you know not just the truth, but like for this sake of becoming a better you. Like she'll concern herself about you as a human being. And I've had clients that don't do that. They're just like, I want this thing, this is transactional, hurry the hell up and give me my thing. And no one wants to feel like they're just some mechanical hand at the other end of the scope of the spectrum of work. Like no one wants to feel that way. So I don't know, I relegate myself to trying to only work for people who have a heart or who have a soul, um, because they tend to understand that you are human and that you are fallible as a human. Because I know I am fallible. I make mistakes all the time, and you know oftentimes I come off very unapologetic about those mistakes, but at the same time, my unapologeticness really just does come from the space of like, look, we're human. we're gonna make mistakes if we harbor or linger on these things. We don't get to the good part where people show up for the thing. The part where you make things important and then you show up. you know, uh, and it sounds like a poor excuse to be lazy or something along those lines. But I promise you that's not what it is. It's just you gotta let people get to their magic, and some people are very meticulous people, and you have to appreciate those people. Those people make the world spin, and then there's people who are more, they're feeling their way through the universe. It's not all neat. It's not all planned, and you gotta appreciate those people too. Those people also make the world go around in a very different way, and so I don't know. I'm rambling as it would be for most of this thing, since I am pretty much just talking to myself. Although I know you're at the other end of the video if you're watching it. But yeah, I'm of the mindset that there, people have their special talent or their special ability, and they may have flaws that perceivably could get in the way of that, but only if the people who are utilizing these people's talents, only if they let that get in the way. Um, it sort of goes back to the conversation about social norms, or like being normal. This concept of normal. It's like it's a really shitty concept. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It's a really crappy concept. Because people approach things differently, and they're not going to always approach the way you like them to approach it. But if you give someone a chance, a space, just a small space, to be themselves, unrestricted, unjudged, just let them be them for a little bit. You see, like, people's, like, magic show up. It's amazing. Um, you know, you get to see the real person behind what you thought was a little bit of cat lady crazy, so to speak. You know, and maybe someone is just crazy, and that's okay. Like, you gotta take the good with the bad, and so it's like, okay, she's crazy, but are you learning something from that crazy? Are you never gonna be that crazy? Like, are you taking your life lessons from that? Because you could totally learn from someone else's failures. You don't have to just learn from your own. It's like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do what that person did. Oof, you know, uh, doing more of that sort of thinking, level of thinking. Whatever. Again, I'm rambling. I think partially because I'm tired, and partially because I know I need to stop streaming on YouTube and continue my testing of other platforms for such things. Um, and I need to figure out how to. I need to start doing these like planned. Right now, I'm trying to do them every day because this sort of spurs me to then draw my stuff out and get it done. But once this project is sort of wrapped up, I kind of wanna jump into Jack B stuff. That would be ideal. Although I actually have to do some storyboard stuff as well for a different project. Um, I mean, maybe that might be the next thing I start really working on. Uh, but yeah, yeah. You gotta take people's good and bad and roll with it. I am just trying to improve myself, as I've said in the past. That's really all I'm ever trying to do. Like, like people who know me know this about me. Like, that's all I'm ever really trying to do. People don't believe it sometimes. Like, I I'm pretty sure I come off as lazy. To someone, someone has to believe like if I come in, like for example, I think at work people will assume I'm lazy because I'm not clamoring up to do work. Like, oh my god, yeah, there's so much things to keep me busy. No, it's not that I'm not busy either. It's more uh, I I consider things work that maybe other folks might not consider as work. Like I will surf and read articles online, and I'm not necessarily going to share it with my whole team until I think of it as valuable to share with my whole team. you know, but that's work. That is work. And sometimes I get inspired by the design of things that have nothing to do with desktop application. And the same thing works with sort of this stuff that I'm working on now. This work I'm doing now acts as an inspiration space for design work that I do. It's like you clear your brain. Like for me, I spend 7 to 8 hours sitting in front of a computer reading about or learning about or designing some interfaces. I need to break away from that. And yeah, sometimes I do that by hanging out with my wife and we're watching a movie or we're going to dinner or we're going out, which we don't do as much of, but we're going out, right? Or I come home and my wife's working late at work and I'm working late too. I'm working on this stuff and this. Sometimes the composition for a drawing will will help me figure out like a nav design problem or like it will make me think about screen flow and vice versa. Like sometimes a really good example actually recently I was um, we were usability testing some screens at work, and people were giving comments and feedback about oh yeah, this is cool, but like I didn't know it was there. And I was like, it's really, I was like, oh man, that's cool. Like it's cool to know that that's what's happening. And I was like, that happens a lot with my work, but in the art space it comes off so different. Like I've heard people say about like paintings I do that, oh man, it's like every time you look at it you find something new. And they say it as a good quality. Like, oh man, it's a good attribute of your work. It's like every time you look at it there's something new there. And I'm like, yeah, well, I try to put a lot in as much as I can, and I hide it. Like sometimes I'll hide it. Sometimes it'll be in the corner. I was like, oh, I wonder how much of that kind of cropped up in the design decisions that I was making at work. Um, where it's like I might try to cram a lot into a small space, but like make it receded and makes other stuff more prominent. And these are all actually good things you're supposed to do in design, but sometimes that can go wrong. And so just all that stuff is what like it works together. They work together. They're not, how do I describe it? Storytelling is always storytelling. It's just different mediums to do it, and with different mediums come different rules. Like I care very much about visual storytelling. Like what is the flow of a particular drawing? What is the composition? Why is the composition the way it is? What is it trying to highlight? At what I concern myself, at what point do you hit the third focal point? The first one should be obvious. The second one, not so much. But the third one may not be as obvious at all. You may not know what it is. And what's cool about that is in my work, I always try to figure out third focal point, at least. Because sometimes you can tell a story just by what you have people focus on first, second, and third. It creates this sense of motion. It creates a sense of action, even though it's a still drawing. It's not moving at all. um, so it's just sort of like they talk about in comic books, your paneling is pacing, but like even with my comic book Jack B, what I try to do is actually create pacing with against the actual paneling. Like the paneling is only like a base measure, but within the drawing there should be beats within the drawing too. There should be a rhythm within the drawings, and sometimes I personally don't like panels very much. um, what I try to do is create remnants of panels, like suggestions of panels based on the shape of an object that is butting up against the next panel starting, um, and just trying to build this philosophy of like time is a little more fluid than the rigidity of panels. Even though there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of like if you really look at how sequential art really works and how paneling really works, it's amazing how you can control your storytelling, your pacing, and like slow people's brains down. Make them pay attention to details because you're like zooming in on a detail and zooming in further and zooming in further, and how the first zoom in means something completely different from the last one, you know, without any dialogue, because your brain will start filling in the words as you're reading. It's really awesome. But I try to do that with drawings, like in like this drawing, for example. I wanted to convey a couple things. Like, okay, I wanted you to be able to like. I wanted it to be like, oh man, there's this crazy action up top. There's this sort of like, you know, the bad guys are ready to sort of like they're trying to find that opening. But really, if you look at it, it's more like they're trying to distract the people at the top so that they could take the main guy out. And they know if Ellis falls, the other two might just fall too, or at least that's the assumption. And so, you know, I want to be able to tell that exact story in one image without any words. And I don't know if that's exactly what I'm conveying. I think I am sort of conveying that his two friends, or his sister and his friend, are not paying attention to him right now, not paying attention to Ellis, and Ellis is going to suffer a little bit for that. But at the same time, there's like a bit of anticipation, but there's also action. And how do you get both of those things to work and play well together? And I kind of like where this drawing is going because of that. Um, and streaming has kind of helped me think through some stuff, which is cool. Um, and actually talk it through, because talking it through sometimes, this is the conversation I have in my head, and I'm just glad you're here for the ride. Like like the conversation that I'm having right now is stuff I'll be thinking about quietly as I draw. Um, but it's nice to say it out loud a little bit every now and again. Usually this is like the conversation I'm having with my wife when she's home. I'm like, "Hey, babe. Oh, welcome home." She'll be like, "What you working on?" And then I would go into spewing about all this stuff that I'm spewing to you guys about. Um, and she'll still get it anyway. Like when she gets home, right now she's like at a training. Like when she gets home, it'll still be like, "Hey, babe, what you working on?" And the whole same conversation will happen again. But I really dig talking about what I'm thinking about, like, a little bit. Like, I'm always thinking about this stuff in that way, that like, how did this panel work? How did it display? And I hope I make sense when I'm saying it out loud, because I don't know. I mean, I may think it's one thing, and someone, your artwork's not complete until someone else looks at it and gives their interpretation. Like, your audience completes the project, not you. Like, you just complete the work on your end to spark the thought, and that's it. That's all you're responsible for. How people receive it, that's completely up to them. And you could hope and dream and pray for what it is. And there's some control. You use social norms. You use patterns and things you've seen in things before, because if you've seen it before, then other people have seen it before. So if you use it, that means that the higher likelihood that someone else has seen it will make it familiar. And once you make it familiar, then people can accept it a lot quicker. But with that said, you know I don't know if this thing stuff is gonna be successful or not. As I said in another video, I just can't stop doing it. So and I try to think as much as possible because I hope I can, it can be helpful. you know, it, I hope I can get it right, so to speak. You know, but that's not to say I'm not confident in what I'm doing. Like, I'm happy. I'm personally happy with what I work on, and I won't put it out there unless like I was kind of happy about what I was gonna do. Um, so yeah, I'm happy with it, and as long as I'm happy with it, and in this case, this is client work, so as long as my client's happy with what I'm happy with, then we're okay. Um, the moment that those things become not true, I have something to worry about. Uh, I kind of didn't really finish the design of this thing. I might deviate from sort of what I have in the blue. I wonder what patterns I could like. I've been using a certain set of patterns like where Fred Ye's sword has like these triangular patterns with like a circle inside of it, and I actually pulled that from this Indian water temple that had that kind of symbology in there, like a far more complex version of it, but it had something like that in blue. Uh, I feel like I've used it a lot. I've also used like this pattern in the Greek. It to me it used to be I used to call it a Greek pattern, but I realized that that pattern predates the Greek. So um, you know this sort of thing, and I don't want to do that. And I would use sort of line, maybe like a circle, 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 and then like a swiggle. But it's too complex for the shape of the staff. It probably would be better if I was doing like um, yeah, I don't know. I just don't want it to be a pattern that takes away from. Oh, maybe I do like a wave, right? It's underwater, and then I alternate it. Yeah, maybe I'll do something like that. Maybe. Um, yeah, I just don't want it to take away from like I don't want it to distort the illusion that it's a staff going into the to distance a little bit and foreshortening a little bit slightly, and it's easy with a pattern on a pole to totally just break someone's attention of the shape, like the cylindrical shape, because the pattern doesn't follow the cylindrical shape, and so you're like, like I don't know. For me, it's sort of like, man, that's not the right shape. Maybe I'm making it extra like too intricate. So I mean, I could probably just get away with accentuating the fact that it's a staff, and maybe it's like a constructed three piece sort of spear staff thing. Um, I mean, I think of immediately like Donatello's staff, um, how it had like the ribbon wrapped around the middle of it. Man, I'm yawning. It's not even 8 o'clock and I'm yawning. This is crazy. um, all right. Either way, I'm gonna keep going on this. I'm probably gonna go on Facebook Live, do like another doodle, and talk about something else completely. Yep. All right, guys. Bye.